I would have liked to just round up the debate on the $6 million facility that we are borrowing, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I cannot allow the minister, the member from Microsoft, to get away with the things that he is saying, Mr. Speaker. I can't. Mr. Speaker, the member for Microsoft speaks about borrowing at 6% to fix, schools at a time when interest rates are rising. Globally, interest rates are rising globally. But as the same Minister of Finance, when the banks were asked when interest was actually at zero, when liquidity was high in the national market, that's the same member who borrowed to build roads at 6% over 5 years. The same Minister of Finance, finds it wrong to borrow now to fix schools at 6% at a time of rising interest rates globally. But that's the same minister, when he's Minister of Finance, he declined a loan at 2.5% for 20 years to build a Groseley highway. This thing, when the member from Microsoft begins to speak, as if he was never in government. Exactly. There was a loan from the Kuwaitis, 25 years, 2.5%, 5 years of interest free. 5 years. 5 years grace period, moratorium. To build the Groseley Street Highway from Shock to Groseley and feeder roads in Mico North, Viewfort North. He stopped it at 2.5%. He stopped it. 25 years. And he went and he borrowed money at 6%. Yes. He had just complained about it. DFC. The member for Mico. After he had put a tax of $1.50 that he said would be in a lockbox. And up to today, the economy can't give taxes, but you put a tax of $1.50, said per gallon of gas, put it in a lockbox. Up to today, we cannot find that lockbox, but still left over $200 million of DFC loans to pay. That's not true. That is the Minister of Finance. That's the guy speaking. That's the gentleman who is speaking about handling the finances of this country. That's not true. That's not true. Defend yourself. That is the Minister of Finance. That's the Minister. You're not worried if it? Because we borrowed the money from the Taiwanese, 20 years, 5-year moratorium. You borrowed more from the Taiwanese. But you borrowed from. What about the money you borrowed? What about the DFCs? Where are the DFCs? Where are the DFCs? COVID and DFCs. What's the two? But there was no COVID and you declined the loan at 2.5%. Why you did it? Why you did it? The loan was never approved. You said the loan was approved. When he came in, no loan was approved. No loan was approved. The memo says, I thought they must have been indicting him and you didn't tell us. You will not proceed with the loan because of the effect of that. That's not true. And I went in for another money. So that is the member, the same member who declined a loan at 2.5%, but went to borrow after COVID at a time when interest rates were low, because he thought he had done a poll and the poll said roads would win the election. So he went, and instead of going through the process of road building, he borrowed at 6% over 5 years to his favorite contractor, and also borrowed from the Taiwanese also. So he had a double whammy. And look at the roads that he built, and asked me for the returns on these roads, and he left a bill of $200 million for which we have to pay every year. 200 million every year for roads. And he said the $1.50 was supposed to go in a lockbox. The $1.50 went into the consolidated account, Mr. Speaker. It's a consolidated account, Mr. Speaker. And he comes and he speaks about the roads, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, here is the minister, when he was Minister of Finance, the OKEU was ready. There was a transition team prepared to move into the OKU. We had already dealt with the Martinicans, the French assistants to the OKU. He fired the transition team. And he left us with a bill with Cayman City for $11 million, which I had to pay.
That's true.
That is the member from Microsoft who's talking about OK Hospital, And when COVID struck, he was forced to use the same team of people he had fired to move from Victoria Hospital to COVID.
How much you had to pay Cayman City again?
$11 million. $11 million. We took a loan to pay it. And so I suspect the member from Microsoft doesn't remember he was in government. He does remember. So he comes and he speaks as if that's the same member. The same member, Mr. Speaker, who left payables of $184 million owed to local suppliers and NIC. $184 million of local payables. That's the same Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, that is the same minister when he was Minister of Finance. St. Lucia borrowed the most in the entire OECS for COVID. St. Lucia borrowed the most. All the countries borrowed. St. Lucia borrowed the most because the St. Lucian economy was the worst. Yes, and they borrowed, and he comes and he boasts about management of the economy. St. Lucia borrowed the most. All countries suffered from COVID, but he borrowed the most, Mr. Speaker. That's what he did. Mr. Speaker, that is the same minister, the same man when he was Minister of Finance. That was the same man he was Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker. He said a few minutes ago, how will you finance health? How will you finance health care in this country? Go ahead now, talk. Go ahead. When you finish, you'll talk. Because this is what you want to do. You want people not to hear what I'm saying, so you're talking across me. Go ahead, talk. So, I want you to talk.
There's only one Prime Minister inside there.
I want you to talk.
That's right, there's only one Prime Minister. Exactly.
But you're talking. Go ahead and talk.
Go ahead.
Well,
you're talking, I will say thing.
What I'm saying to you,
when I'm standing, you're talking. I should do the same thing. That's good.
You finish? You finish? Huh? You finish talking to him? That is the same Prime Minister. The same when he was Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker. When he was Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker, he inflicted on the people of this country a $1.50 tax for gas. He said that money was in a black box. A lockbox, sorry. A lockbox, sorry. He said it was a lockbox. Up to today, no one can find that lockbox and where that money was. That money went, all he had to say is the money went into the consolidated fund. That's all he had to say. But no, he insists it went into a lockbox, Mr. Speaker. But while the money was in the lockbox to construct roads, he said, he just admitted he borrowed from the Taiwanese, and he borrowed money at 6% for DFCs. 6% for DFCs over 5 years at a time of low interest rates. Compare these interest rates at the time with interest rates now. in the global market, and you see the difference. But he sits there and he stands and he pretends he's almighty and a manager of the economy. Look at interest rates now. Look at the state of the world economy now and the state of the world economy when you were in government. After COVID, there was actually deflation. Prices went down. There was deflation after COVID because the supply chain was blocked. There was deflation. Right now, inflation is at the highest it ever was for several decades. But these are facts, simple facts, Mr. Speaker. We understand that the cost of food is going up. We understand that. We have taken steps, and we continue to take steps, and we'll continue to have discussions with the the largest importer of food in the country. We'll continue to have discussions with them. But the answer, part of the answer to the increase in food prices is import substitution, and part of the answer is to grow local food. When I stood up and I said that we should move to consume more of our bananas, they papi showed me, they laughed at me, they said I was a fool because I said we'll use more of our local produce. I said that we must try to grow more of what we are eating, and for emphasis I reversed it. For emphasis, they tried to papi show me again. That was the cost. That was the part of the remedy to high food prices. Have your own kitchen garden, grow your own food, try to practice import substitution. I said so. Instead of the member for Miku South, instead of the agreeing and say to the government, let us work on some sort of serious import substitution to try to reduce, to consume more of our local food. The papi showed me, they played politics. The same thing they are doing now with the reduction in VAT in sanitary products. The same thing, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow, the Prime Minister of England will speak about period poverty. But no, just for cheap political, the same thing he's doing there today, cheap political mileage, he refuses to accept these facts, Mr. Speaker. Fact is, Mr. Speaker, this Lucian economy did worse than any economy in the OECS after COVID. That's a fact. That's a fact, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, let us get back to repairs to schools, Mr. Speaker, and Hurricane Thomas. Mr. Speaker, when the member for Viewfort South was Minister of Finance, he made the point that the economy was in transition. He said the economy was in transition. Again, they papi showed him, Mr. Speaker, who built, under whose government the most hotels were built in this country. Under which government? Which government passed the Tourism Incentives Act? Which government passed the Tourism Incentives Act to supplement the old Tourism Incentives Act? A new one. Which government, Mr. Speaker, attracted the most hotel investment in this country? And you're speaking about we do not understand the benefits of tourism? Let me explain to you what I said about tourism, because it's your habit. You see, you are fooling yourself. That's why you said 15-2 was no majority. I was in London trying to do a promotion with the Minister of Tourism. He was there. About after COVID, we were trying the promotion in London. And I said to the audience, tourism, I was Minister of Tourism, and the record is clear. Compare my tenure as Minister of Tourism with yours. Let's compare it. Let's go look at the rivals. And I don't want to come in and boast like you, but facts. But sometimes I will have to state the facts. Let's count the hotels that were built when you, Mr. Tourism, and I was there. Let's count the increase in visitor arrivals when I was Mr. Tourism when he was there. Let's look about the nature heritage tourism program that brought tourism to the people when I was there and when you were there. Let's look at the Ansari fish fry that brought tourism to the village of Ansari when he was Minister of Finance and I was Mr. Tourism when you were there. Let us look at the Denny fish fry when he was Prime Minister as Mr. Tourism when you were there.
Only 3 years.
Let's look at it. Let us look at it. Let us look at the difference. Let us look at the difference between that time, your tourism management, and my tourism management. Let's look at it. But that is for another show. Look at the money you had. The man from Mykonos, there was 50 million. You know what you did? You bought a tent. You bought a tent. You bought a tent and you had boxing in paradise. That's your tourism promotion. You had boxing in paradise. You spent millions of dollars of boxing in paradise and you got $180 worth of return. That's your record. That's your record. That's your record for boxing in paradise. You built a tent. You bought a tent. You bought a tent for $100,000. That's what you did. That's what you did. So let's talk about tourism. Let's talk about tourism. Let's talk about who did the National Conservation Authority to clean the beaches in this country. Let's talk about tourism. You want to bring the tourism debate? I want to debate with you. Let's talk about tourism. Let's talk about your contribution in tourism. Let's talk about the money that you got to promote tourism and the money we got, and look at the returns. Look at the cost per visitor in my term and the cost of visitor in your term. Let's do this maths. Let's do this math, because you believe because you can talk, because you believe, because you now you see where you're going. Now you see what he's doing. You see what he's saying. Has any one of you taken your own money and build a hotel? You see where he's going. He's getting personal. Now if we answer, he'll rush on the radio station and say, you see what he's saying about me? You see what he's saying about me? Personal attacks. You hear what he's saying. You hear what he's saying. He is saying, which one of us have taken our own money to build a hotel?
So he said he did.
To build a hotel, that's what he said. So he said he did. Now, if we go into all kinds of things now, if we go down that path now, and begin to talk about conflict of interest, etc., he'll complain. You see what he's saying? But he opens the door. But I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. So, Mr. Speaker, this member, when he was Minister of Finance, he comes here and he says that we are borrowing money to fix schools, and he is afraid, he's ashamed the economy will crash. He's been saying the economy will crash since July 2021. Been saying that, been wishing and praying for the economy to crash. Wishing. Anytime he gets up in the morning, he says, Lord, make the economy crash. That's what he's wishing for the economy to crash. That's what he says all over the time. He wants the economy to crash. He wishes. Right now, he's predicting. Look at what growth will be. The same member who said we'll not be able to pay civil servants. He and his people said we can't pay civil servants. Look at what will happen. He said we'll attract no investment because he has the most charisma in the world and he can talk to international people. He supported these theories. But you don't know his history of investment. He found the Range Hotel that he caused the hotel not to be built, and he had to pay the owner of the Range. That's his history. Mr. Speaker, we're going to go into history. Well, because the member of Microsoft believes he can go out there with his surrogates and say whatever they want. Say whatever they want. Cause people to insult people on social media. Write all kinds of things that are not true, and he will get away with it. We agree that the cost of food is high. We agree that. The Minister of Commerce has taken several steps to reduce the price of food, Mr. Speaker. But he is also saying that we don't have enough money to fund school repairs and to fund healthcare. But he has never said, how are we going to fund healthcare and health insurance. Never.
You don't want to hear it.
The health insurance, and you know, he said he never, you only need to play the tip in talk about health insurance.
Of course. Please. I'm so tired of the threats.
You think that you should?
You'll just prove he's he speaks untruth.
I always call him to show some teeth. I would be
So the tips are wrong. The tips are wrong. What you say is wrong. What you say is wrong.
You said it's a recording of you.
What's that?
A recording of what you said.
Wait.
But you even deny you might say that.
Could be.
That's what you would say is fake. You never meet a man who say what he denied immediately what he said.
First of all, he said he never spoke about public flogging.
Yeah.
Remember he didn't say that.
Can I play the tape of you saying you don't think about it?
Yes. You can play it. You can play it. I want you to play it.
Yeah.
I want you to play it. Play it. So let me explain to you what I said. Let me first of all play.
The Labour Party has done in the past in the South and what they are doing today.
Today, yes.
They should be publicly flogged for what they're doing.
Yes, yes,
Okay?
yes.
They should be publicly flogged. They should be publicly flogged.
That's one. Let me tell.
Who should be publicly involved?
But you just said you never said anybody should
I didn't say that. You said I said that everybody should be publicly involved. I said who? Who did I say that should be publicly involved? All the people that are causing people to suffer in this country. That's the people who should be flogging yourself. We're going to put on a 2.5% tax at this time with what is going on in this country, and you want to do that? No.
2.5% levy has to go. In April 2019, Cabinet took a decision to form a National Health Insurance Levy Committee. That is why I'm saying to all of you tonight, I'm begging all of you all a favor. We're going to have another march because you know why? The 2.5% levy has to go. In April 2019, Cabinet took a decision to form a National Health Insurance Levy Committee. Levy Committee. Levy Committee.
Insurance. Yes. You want to make the same thing? A national health insurance.
levy.
Everybody will be.
But you said levy there.
But who is it? Everybody's not contributing to insurance levy.
It's a tax.
But everybody.
Was it a tax?
But isn't
a tax?
remember
Was it in fact an
the health insurance is a tax. It's a tax.
Insurance levy is a
The health insurance levy is a tax. It's a tax.
It is not a tax.
It's a tax similar to the health and insurance levy that you passed, that you were in the government when it passed. You were in the government passed, and you came here. You came here.
Member for Castries, East just one. Member for Miku South, I've been just this quiet observer here. Can you allow the member to continue his rebuttal? Go ahead, Member for
Mr. Speaker, now he says a health insurance levy is not a tax. What's a levy? What's a levy? A levy is a scheme. he said a health insurance scheme now. It's a scheme. You're right. It's a scheme. He thought it was a health insurance scheme. Mr. Speaker, he is the only one. He knows about health insurance, Mr. Speaker. The great United States, Obamacare was health insurance. Obamacare, up to today, they're still trying to decipher Obamacare. There was never any concrete proposal about that I saw about health insurance. There was never any, but they are criticizing our universal healthcare program. They're criticizing it. They're criticizing it. As usual, they laugh, the papi show. The maternal care, the universal health care. We've said it will happen in stages. They laugh at the stages. They laugh. But the poor pregnant mothers, and you know, when you speak about these things, they tell you you're playing politics and you say you're being racist. The poor pregnant mothers when they were expecting a baby, they could not get any of the tests that were necessary before their prenatal care. Now, under the universal health care, these mothers are getting that attention which they deserve. And you cannot deny it. You can't deny it. Even though you try to papi show it and pay as if it doesn't exist, you can't deny it. You can't deny that we've removed VAT on Pampers. You understand? And you saying that we did it for 2 years. We did it for 2 years in the first instance, but you did it for no years. You never did it. You never understood period poverty. You never understood what it means. And that is something all over the world, you can't deny it. You never understood what it means for a young mother to have to make a choice between buying these products and feeding a child. You never understand it. You never understood it. We never put VAT on any. Anyhow, I worry about you. We removed VAT. We removed VAT on it. We removed VAT on sanitary napkins, Mr. Speaker. We remove sanitary napkins. But you understand? But that is a problem. That's a problem. The problem is the delusion that he is feeling. The delusion. So, Mr. Speaker, we are moving on. Payables. $184 million of payables to local suppliers and the NIC. That's what he left. $184 million. $200 million of DFCs at 6% for roads when you could get the same roads built at 2.5%. That's what he left behind, Mr. Speaker. That's what he left behind. $11 million to Cayman City. Fired the transition team to move from Victoria Hospital to OKU. Fired the team of St. Lucia's. Fired them. And he had a big ceremony at Cap Estate. And again, the tape, what he said. What he said in the tape, Cayman City, no faith in the capability and the capacity of St. Lucians. No faith. Same thing he repeated there, in other words, a while ago. No faith in St. Lucians, Mr. Speaker. No faith. No faith, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, and again, even though, you see, Mr. Speaker, he back on Slasper again. I will repeat, because those who did not hear about Slasper, and let me tell them again about Slasper, again, because you know he wants me to say it. I'll say it again. He opened the door. Slasper's has not changed in any significant way. The port operations, the cargo operations will continue to be handled by Slasper. In 2019, 82% of Slasper's revenue came from port operations. That will not change. In 2019, 11% of Slasper's revenue came from port operations. That is going to change. The 11% is going to change. It will go to GPH, for GPH to upgrade the cruise facilities in the country, including the vendors arcade. In 2022, 91% of Slasper's revenue came from the cargo operations. That will not change. In 2022, only 4% of Slasper's revenue came from cruise. That will change. In 2023 to date, 86% of Slasper's revenue came from cargo operations. Only 9% came from cruise operations. The 86% will not change. Slasper continues to be a statutory board with dual ministries on control, infrastructure and finance. Slasper will continue. Slasper staff will not be affected. Slasper was involved in the GPH agreement and the GPH, what's happening at GPH. GPH already operates ports in Antigua, ports in the Bahamas. And if you go to the Bahamas, you will see what port GPH operates in the Bahamas. So GPH is not a company that's just came from nowhere. We are insisting that GPH delivers on the promises that they make to the people of St. Lucia, and the Minister of Tourism is ensuring that these premises are delivered, Mr. Speaker. The pots were not sold. The pots were not sold because 83% more than 80% of the operations of the port will continue to be done by SLASBA. So that is the story about SLASBA and the ports. That is the reality of the situation. What we're not saying is that the cruise operations are going to be upgraded. The loan will be liquidated, and SLASBA will have increased capacity and better fiscal strength to deal with the cargo operations. And in that case, they can upgrade the cargo operations at the ports, Mr. Speaker. That is the story of SLASBA. And speaking about PPPs, Mr. Speaker, the member from Mico South insists that the same minister, the same gentleman who speaks about debt and grow the economy, refuses to understand that PPPs do not increase the debt burden on the country. And all the international financial organizations are recommending that governments use PPPs to develop the infrastructure and reduce the debt burden. That's a fact. And these things are factual. They cannot be denied with rhetoric. These are factual. PPPs are the preferred way for infrastructure development. Roads in Jamaica now, major roads have been built through PPPs. Major roads, Mr. Speaker, all over the developing world. PPPs are the way. You came into government and you found a PPP complete for United International Airport. Complete. United International Airport, as we speak, could have been finished. The terminal could have been finished. You cancelled it. And you instructed SLASBA. The same SLASBA that you're speaking about. There's a report that says you instructed SLASBA. I've never instructed SLASBA. You know, and so you seem to forget that you're in government. He's forgetting excuses for everything he did. Excuses for everything he did, Mr. Speaker. The only party that we refer to as run for, the only party Richard Frederick will be able to defend himself. He is a lawyer. Mr. Speaker, you have the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to look at what happened in the case of the land at Bannan and what happened with DSH in Viewford. You can compare and you can contrast, Mr. Speaker. You can look at the size of the property, you can look at the cost of the property, and you look at DSH. You understand, Mr. Speaker? But that is going to come at another stage, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know, attacking journalists, his habit, he can't help himself. You can imagine, right away attacking a journalist. He cannot help himself, Mr. Speaker, and he wants to talk about what I said to a journalist. I'll say what I said again. The journalist asked me whether I had read a report. I said to him, that's not his business. I didn't insult him. I called him no names. I said, that is not your business, because what I read or what I will read is my business. I never threatened him. I never called him any names. That's all I said. But you want to use that? Huh? I didn't call his editor. You know, Mr. Speaker, I never called his editor. You know, up to now, there are people here who call editors and tell and complain to them that reports are not doing the right thing. I've never called the editor. Never. I've never called a radio station and complained about news. Never. I've never done that. I've allowed the press a free rein. You want to make a fuss and say, because I told a man, that's not your business? If you ask me, that's not your business. I didn't tell him to ask a question. After, I continued to answer the questions that he posed on me. But what was not relevant was what I had read. So, Mr. Speaker, we are very happy that we are borrowing money to fix schools. And the minister said he knows it's not enough. Of course he knows, but it's a start. He speaks about school repairs, Mr. Speaker, but he never remembers Hurricane Thomas in 2010. He's forgotten that. He's forgotten Hurricane Thomas in 2010 not only damaged infrastructure, but damaged many schools. And what we inherited in 2010 was the bad hill. You remember all the problems in the bad hill that we had to repair? So we had stuff, and that's why climate change is such a threat to the region, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy that the African Export Bank has borrowed that money to us. And as I said before, we will remain focused on the work we have to do to improve this country. The Ministry of Education is trying its best with limited resources. Of course we know the resources are limited, but we're trying the best with what we have, Mr. Speaker. And we'll continue. And if you outline the things we've done for education in the first 2 years since we're in government, and the things that they did for education in the first 2 years that were in government, let's make the comparison. The time will come for the comparison, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I thank members for their support, and I look forward to the construction and the repairs of these schools. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow an amount of US $6 million, the loan, from the African Export-Import Bank to finance the construction of social infrastructure and other facilities damaged or destroyed by tropical storm under an education rehabilitation climate-linked facility. And be it further resolved that A, the loan is repayable in 7 years, commencing from the date of disbursement of the loan, inclusive of a grace period of 2 years. B, the loan is repayable in equal semi-annual installments on the 30th day of June and the 41st day of December of each year after the grace period. C, interest rate is payable at a rate of 6% per annum. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Whereas is provided by Section 62(1) of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 15.01, the Act, that the Minister of Finance may, by affirmative resolution of Parliament, borrow from a bank or other financial institution for the capital or current expenditure of government. And whereas is further provided by Section 64 of the Act, that money borrowed by the government must be paid into and form part of the consolidated fund. And whereas the Minister of Finance considers it necessary to borrow an amount of US dollars 1.203.224 from the CARICOM Development Fund, the fund, to finance the Patience Community Water Supply Project. And whereas the loan is repayable in 10 years, commencing from the first due date after a grace period of 2 years following the date of the first disbursement, and whereas the loan is repayable in 40 equal or approximately equal and consecutive quarterly installments, and whereas the loan payments commence on the 40th day of March, the 40th day of June, the 40th day of September, and the 40th day of December of each year, and whereas interest payable is payable at a rate of 3% per annum on the amount of the loan disbursed on outstanding, be it resolved that the Parliament authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow the amount of US dollars 1,203,224, the loan, from the CARICOM Development Fund, the fund, to finance the Patience Community Water Supply Project. Be it further resolved that the loan is repayable in 10 years, commencing from the first due date after a grace period of 2 years following the date of the first disbursement. The loan is repayable in 40 equal, approximate equal, and consecutive quarterly installments. The loan payments commence on the 40th day of March, the 40th day of June, the 40th day of September, and the 40th day of December of each year. The interest is payable at a rate of 3% per annum on the amount of the loan disbursed and outstanding. Mr. Speaker, this loan of $1.2 million, Mr. Speaker, is a loan from the Caribbean Development Fund for the Patience Community Water Supply Project, Mr. Speaker. Patience in Mico North, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Patience system, it feeds several communities: St. Mary, Patience, Lumba, Laho, Monrepo, Wen Development, Manikou, Prale, La Pointe, and Marguerite. Mr. Speaker, the present system is inadequate. It's inadequate. It cannot supply the people in these areas with water, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will allow the member from Mico North. What? I'd like the member of Mico North, Mr. Speaker, because he has been constantly knocking on the door to get this water product completed, Mr. Speaker. He's been constantly knocking on the door to get this water project, Mr. Speaker, because the people in this area are suffering because of lack of water, Mr. Speaker. They are suffering. They are suffering, Mr. Speaker. And the project includes the following: construction of a rubber wall intake on the main Fawn River, construction of a pumping station downstream of the intake, installation of a raw water pumping main to transport the water, construction and installation of a water treatment plant near the existing storage tank in Lumba, installation of a water storage tank, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the overall project costs $1.461,996 million, or 3.9 million EC dollars, Mr. Speaker. The government will contribute 17.7% of the cost, and the Caribbean Development Bank will contribute 82.3% of the cost, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the government will work with WASCO, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the project happens, Mr. Speaker. A memorandum of understanding will be written with WASCO to repay the loan to the CDF under the given terms and conditions, and the amount owing to WASCO will offset against the loan, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this exchange agreement will ensure that the capital investment is done, the people of Patience will have a better water supply, and WASCO will not be overly indebted. This is what the exchange is all about, Mr. Speaker, because we understand and we know, Mr. Speaker, that the people of Mico North, and in terms of water is life. Water is a necessity, Mr. Speaker. But you must ask yourself the question: why were these people in that condition for so long? I would not like to say anything more, Mr. Speaker, because I said water is life. But you must ask the question: why were these people under these conditions for so long, Mr. Speaker? Why? Huh? They helped, but it did not improve it. It was only temporary. It wasn't what is happening now. You understand? They give some temporary relief, but the problem remains, right? So, Mr. Speaker, right now WASCO supplies the residents with potable water through water trucks. That is costly and inconvenient, Mr. Speaker. So this improvement, this capital improvement, will improve the water supply, and I'll be pleased, Mr. Speaker, if members support this motion. Thank you.